Hello guys, today we will create this real-time strategy game. You can select your units and make them attack the enemy units or enemy base. At the barracks your units will be able to heal. We will create 3 types of units, including ranged units. Real-time strategy games can be quite complex, so I will probably do a follow-up covering other topics. However, in this first part you will already end up with a fully working game. First we are going to create a terrain. We could create a terrain in many ways, but we're going to use the Unity's own terrain editor for this. This has the advantage that we can edit the terrain from within Unity. So let's go to the package manager and find the terrain tools. You can type in something like terrain over here, and then you'll find the terrain tools and click install. I've already done that, so I'm done here. And now I have this option over here, a terrain toolbox and the edit noise option. I'm gonna go for the edit noise option. Over here we can create some noise, some random noise, and this is suitable for creating a first terrain with some hills. You can change the scale as you like, and finally export this noise to a texture. Let's make it rather large, so it has a lot of detail, and then we can just export it, and let's save it over here in the assets. And now we can open that terrain toolbox. Let's put it over here, and we can start to generate the terrain. I would say 1000 and 1000 meters is enough, and we're gonna import a height map, and therefore we're gonna use that that noise texture that you just created. It's called something like new noise. There's actually 2 in here, but let's go with this one. Now you can hit create, and after a while we will have a terrain with hills, so we don't need to shape them all by ourselves, but this is actually way too steep, as you can see. Fortunately we can change the existing terrain by clicking on it, going to the inspector, and over here in this last option we have the terrain settings, and you can just adjust the height over here. So if we make it 60 instead of 600, you can see that now it's more a terrain that's useful for us. So actually I think this is quite alright like this. You could edit it if you like by using these options over here. For example, we can just smoothen it out a little bit in some areas, for example where we want to create some buildings. And you can even set the certain height, and you can raise or lower the terrain, so to create manually some more hills. Once that's done, we can paint this terrain by using this tool over here, and therefore we need to create some layers, and we call this, for example, the grass layer. And then we need some texture. I've imported some textures from some free assets. So there should be some nice textures over here. Take, for example, this grass. So now this grass is already used for the whole map. But we can add some more layers, like for example sand. And then we can just use that and paint a part of the terrain. So in this way we can create a nice varying terrain. You see that this texture for the grass is a bit repetitive. We could use another one, or what we could do is select this one. So double click on this grass, then go over here to the grass material, and then you can change the tile settings. This is maybe not as realistic for grass, but in my opinion it looks better. You can create some more layers and then paint the whole texture. You can change the brush size if you want to do it a bit faster. And then once you're happy with your terrain, we can move on to the next step. However, I want to have some boundaries on this landscape, because the soldiers need to stay on this this part of the land. And we could of course create some invisible boundaries over here, but I'm going for just visible boundaries. So let's just create a cube. It will have a scale of 1000, because the terrain is also 1000. And let's position it at 0. That's over here. You can see that the terrain is not positioned at 0 at the moment. But the idea is to just create these walls all around the terrain, and they have box colliders, so they will keep the soldiers inside. Think something like this, and then on all sides, of course. We can add a texture to this. Let's just create some new material. Let's call it matte border. This is going to be the border. And let's put a texture on it. I've downloaded something like wood. I'm not sure if I can find it now. Maybe this one. you can see is now it's like a giant sandbox where the game is taking part. Not very realistic, but I care only about the gameplay for now. So you can just copy this, rotate it 90 degrees and move it over here. And you can do the same for the other two sides. And then we also want to have something over here, so I'm gonna add some water over here. So let's just create another 3D object, a plane, and let's make that very large. Let's say 5,000. Something like this. Now let's turn this plane into water. I've downloaded the a water shader from Ignite Coders. It's a free one, simple water shader it's called, and it has already some material in here that we can use. So we just put the material over here, and we can even edit it a little bit. We can even edit the shader, but we won't do that. Let's just change the properties. Let's close this. You see the waves are way too big. I also need to put it a little bit down, I see, because some water is still shining through the objects, through the terrain, like lakes, but I don't want that, so let's just move it a little bit down. Yeah, now it's fine. And we will just change this water material a little bit. We can change the tiling. So now it will have more details. You can change it even a bit further. And maybe change the color a little bit, stuff like that, until you're happy with it. But it's not that important. It's just to have something that the terrain doesn't really suddenly end over here. This terrain is more interesting than a flat terrain, but it's still a little bit boring. So we're gonna at least put some trees on it. You can paint trees with the terrain tool, but I will just add them by hand. I've got some models over here. We can just drag them in the scene. This is actually one model, but I've changed the color of the material so that it looks like a different tree. You can also just rotate them a bit and scale them so they don't look the same as the other trees. Got another one over here, but this one has got some light in it. Let's just remove that. Also, I think this tree is a bit too big, so let's just scale it down a little bit. and then we can create an empty game object over here called trees. So we keep the scene organized. Just reset this transform, and then just put all the trees inside that game object. Now let's add some buildings. I found these free models of buildings on turbosquid.com, and I've already downloaded them and imported them in my project, and they are over here. What I've also done is I have extracted the material by pressing this button, so the material is over here, and now we can just edit this material or select a different material. And I made a copy of the original material, and then I've added that material by making also a copy of the texture. This is the original texture. We've changed that into a red and a blue texture, and then we have these two buildings that represent the red and the blue base. So one team has this as a base, and the other team, the blue team, has this as a base. So we can distinguish them, but they have the same building, so you can recognize which building is the base. And the same goes for the barracks. We also have a blue and a red version of those. So how I did that, I used paint.net for that. I just selected the texture for the roof, and then I have adjusted the color balance, so to make it more red or more blue. And then I've saved these textures and set the material to them. So for example, over here you can see the texture for the blue and the red roof, and over here the materials where I've used the blue texture and the red texture. And then this barracks makes use of the blue material, and this one of the red material. So that way we create blue and green units. And we can do the same for the soldiers. Now let's find some characters where we can play our game with. Our strategy game will consist of armies of units that are going to be fighting against each other. So we are going for a medieval setting. So I think this is a nice character that we can use. Only I think this will be like a guy with a spear, so we will create a spear, but we can do that later on. And let's also find some guy with a sword. This one has already a sword on him. That's good. So we can take this as a sword fighter, and then the spear fighter that will have different properties. For example, will run faster but less strong. And then finally we will also have a ranged unit. So I think there are some archers in this on this Miximo side. Yeah, this one, Erica Archer. So what we're going to do is download these three models, Gonna export them as FBX for Unity in a T-pose. Just press download. And after you've downloaded all three, we're also gonna download some animations, because we can take the run, walk, jump animations from the starter package, but we need some additional animations for the fighting. So for example, for the archer, I don't know what it's called, but I think it should be something like shooting bow or something. Shooting arrow. This will work, I think. We're going to also download the model of an arrow that we're gonna put in her hand when she's shooting. But yeah, this is a good animation for shooting a bow. And then we will also need some animations for the sword fighting. There should be some in this pack, but maybe it's called something like hack or slash. And then we can best view that on the sword fighter character. Okay, see, this is not really working. You see that the sword is not really moving. So we're gonna go find another animation. Okay, this is better. This even contains the falling part. We're now gonna use only the slashing part, but we're also gonna download some falling animations, but I want to have them separately. So we're also gonna download an animation like this. So when this soldier is beaten by the enemy, he will fall down like that and will disappear. And then if all the soldiers of one unit have disappeared, then that unit is lost. Over here are the units that we downloaded from XMO. I've extracted the materials and made copies of all the models, and also copies of the material and the texture. And I've created a red and a blue version of each model. So you can see them over here. These are the blue and the red models. I see that I forgot this piece. That should be red. Let me show you how I changed the color of the model. You can see over here the texture for the pikeman, and you can then just select this magic wand and take a part that you want to color. Then you need to set the tolerance to the right level so that only the part is selected that you want to change. Once you've selected the proper part, which can be a bit difficult if the part doesn't really stick out color wise, but once you've found it, you can just adjust the color balance. So let's make this more red to create our red soldier. We can also select, for example, this part. And what you can also do sometimes is change the hue instead of the color balance. Depends a bit on the situation. In this situation, the color balance is better. So over here you can see the blue and the red variant of the texture. Okay, let's make this part red as well, just for an example. Then we go to the this knight, which is this one. This is his material. So we select the material and then we select the texture. So this is the texture, it's called Paladin Red. And we're going to put that in paint.net. And now you can see over here the part that this part that's blue but should be red. So we can select that, set the proper tolerance, and then make it red. We can do that by changing the hue in this case. I think this part also belongs to that. Let's save it. If we now go back to Unity, you'll see that it has been changed. It's no longer blue, but it's more red. You can change it even a bit more by using those color balance settings. Now you can really see that it's becoming red. So that's the way you change those units to have a similar color, so you can recognize which unit belongs to which player. Besides the animator, we're also going to add a character controller. This is going to be used to move the character over the terrain. It will stay on the terrain and will move along with the terrain. It will also not collide with any buildings. So we don't use a rigid body here, because that gives a lot of physics problems that we don't want, like a character falling or moving sidewards or bouncing. We just want to have that character controller that keeps the character on the terrain. And then we're also going to add a script. I'm going to call this the soldier script. Every individual soldier has this script, and then we will just copy that unit and move him a little bit and copy it again and again and again to create an army of 10 characters. You can choose another amount, but I chose 10, so it looks like a decent army. And there is also one character in the center that will be useful. We will designate that as a leader, and later I will explain why. So now that we have these 10 archers, we can create an empty game object, call it army, and this is the army of archers. I'm gonna put all the archers inside but before I do so, I'm gonna reset the transform so that they won't be displaced. So this is just for organization. We will also add an army script. The most things will be handled by the army script, so we don't want to handle them for all those individual units, because that will cost a lot of CPU power. So everything like fighting and dealing damage is taken control of by the army script, and the soldier script for every individual character is only used for moving, because movement should be individual, because sometimes one of these characters will hit a building but the other won't, and they all need to move to the designated destination. Let's take a look at the soldier script. The full source code is available on GitHub, so I won't go into all the details, but just some highlights. The soldier script contains code for moving the character, and also there is this code to make the object stay on the ground. This is kind of simulating gravity, because we didn't use the rigid body. We don't have any gravity, so we need to write something ourselves to keep the character on the terrain. So they are placed a little bit above the terrain, and they will, because of this script, fall down onto the terrain. So I should move this this army a bit up, and then when the game starts, they will fall down onto the floor quite quickly and have the proper position on the terrain. Also, there is this property that there is a leader in the army. Every army has a soldier leader, so one of these soldiers is designated leader. In this case, this archer in the center a little bit has the property leader set. The other archers don't have that set. This is because we want to use as much as possible this root object, for example, to detect if we need to attack enemies or not. If we are close to enemies or to the base, we need to attack it, and we go into attack mode. But to determine where we are at the moment, we won't use this root objects, because for example, if these archers move in a direction and they encounter an obstacle, they won't move as fast as usual, and this root object would not take into account those kind of situations. So it's better to work with an individual soldier instead. So we just pointed one of the soldiers from the army as a leader, and his position will be used to determine if we can attack another army. Also, when we are going to attack, we have a random delay. This is the attack delay over here. because we have only like 3 animations for attacking, if this whole army is attacking, some of the animations will be the same, and if they start at exactly the same time, it will look a little bit like not so natural, because they all make exactly the same movement. But if we have a random delay for every animation, then it looks more like they are all different animations, while they are actually the same but on a different phase. Now let's take a look at the army script. There is one script for all the soldiers that's called the army script. It's in the root of the army, and it looks like this. We have a certain type of army. We have either archers or swordsmen or pikemen at the moment, and we all have some properties like the attack strength and defense strength, and we use those properties to determine how much damage is dealt when we are in fighting other units. We have the number of active soldiers. There is like 10 soldiers maximum, but as soon as the army is under attack and damage is dealt, this army will become smaller until the last soldier dies, and then the whole army is removed. But if only, for example, 70% of the health is still left, then there's already 3 soldiers that will be lost, and as soon as they die, we will play the animation for falling, and then we will just remove them, and we remove them by disabling them. So just like this, just disabling, so he doesn't appear to be there, but the object is still actually there and can be reactivated. We're using that for when we are restoring the unit. When he gets close to his barracks, the units are restored, and they can come back until they are in full health, and then they are with 10 again. For checking if we're dealing damage to other units, we have an overlap sphere. So we just check a sphere near that army leader, and if that's overlapping any enemies, then we are decreasing their health. Over here you can see those spheres. The sphere of the archers is much bigger because they are a ranged unit, and so this is the area where they can attack other enemies, and they will only attack one other enemy at a time. The most important aspect of a good real-time strategy game is that you need to apply good tactics to win the game. If you're just fighting with soldiers without any tactics, it's not fun anyway. So we need to make a nice gameplay where you can just win if you do the right thing. So in this game we can replenish our units in this barracks, and you can move the units to the barracks, and then they can replenish and you have a stronger army. But the disadvantage of that is that you cannot use them in battle at that moment. The barracks are situated at the back of the of your area, of your territory. So that's a choice that you need to make, and the right choice will give you the victory. So in order to have the units replenished by the barracks, we have a barracks script, and it also checks for the overlapping spheres to see if there's any units nearby, and then their health is changed. And if the health is changed, dead soldiers can come back to life. So finally, when health is back to 100, we will have 10 units again. The main goal is to destroy the enemy base. This base also has a script. We have some effects applied on it so it can explode, and also we show a health bar. And if you decrease the health, you can see that there is a fire. If you want to make it even more advanced, you would modify this this mesh to make it look damaged, but this fire will do for now. The less health I have, the more this fire is scaled up and is becoming more intense. Also note that we have also light on the fire, and the intensity is varying over time, but is more intense as we have less health. So this adds to the fire effect. Fire is done by a fire shader that I've taken from an earlier project, Shader Paradise. This is the health bar we're displaying when either the base or one of the armies has gained damage. It's a prefab over here, and there is a slider. You can set the value. 100 actually means that there is no health, and 0 means that we have full health. And we can set this value by script. These health bars are all shown in the canvas, in the 2D canvas on the screen. So this is actually a 2D object and not a 3D object. But we use the position of the 3D objects to show those health bars on the screen. So we need to translate from a world to a screen point, as you can see over here for the army. And here is the position is set. It's set in the update, so every frame the location of the health bar is updated. So that it stays with the army as it moves along the screen. The camera contains a script called camera controller for the movement of the camera. We can move the camera in different ways, but mainly you want to have like the same view in a real-time strategy game, because it would be too confusing to view the battlefield from different angles all the time. So I would advise to just keep looking in one direction, and maybe you want to allow to temporarily rotate the view, but then using this code, for example, you can make it move back to the original position as soon as this key is released. Another important aspect in a real-time strategy game is the selection of units. I've chosen to use the right mouse button to select units, and you can either click on one unit with the right mouse to select it, or you can drag it, the same like you can do in the Unity editor, by the way. So you will see a square, and then all the units in the square will be selected. I don't select individual characters, but I select a whole army instead. Over here you can see the script that's been used to select the units. So as soon as the right mouse button is pressed, we will do a ray cast. So we will shoot a ray from the camera onto this 3D screen, and then where it collides with the terrain, that position we will use as a destination point. This works very well, so we use the mask to only collide with the terrain. So the terrain has an own layer called terrain, and so it doesn't make a difference if you watch the game like this or like this. This ray casting will make sure that you will hit exactly that spot that's under the mouse button. So we use the screen point and we make that into a ray, and then we use that to cast a ray onto the terrain. Then we have some code to just have a small animation moving the arrow up and down. That's showing the destination. And we'll also set a timer, so we will time out after a while, and then we'll just remove that arrow, because it's only just temporary to show where the unit will be heading. So you can select a single unit as said with the right mouse button, or you can drag and create a square and then select multiple units. If you select a single unit, we can also show the unit info panel, so we do that over here. Only if you have a single army selected. Now we show that unit info panel. I can show you that panel over here in the canvas. It's over here. So this panel is shown only when we select a single army, because if we have multiple armies we don't know which info to display here. Future improvement would be to have multiple of these panels, and then if you select 3 units you will see 3 of those panels, for instance. And as soon as you select the unit, as soon as you select the army, all the individual characters of that army will be selected. We have a special marker called selection marker on every unit, on every character. So it's already displayed by default over here, but we remove it as soon as you run the game, and then it will be disabled and enabled as soon as this unit is selected, and therefore we use a special shader. Some of the downloaded characters didn't have any weapons yet, so I've just downloaded this free model of a spear, and I've placed it into the hands of the unit. Put it into the right position, so it's in his right hand, so put it under the right hand in the hierarchy. And also you need to make sure that the rotation and position are properly configured, so that it doesn't look that the guy is holding the spear not right. For the ranged units we need to do a little bit more work. We've defined an arrow position in the left hand in this case, because the archer is using the left hand to hold the bow, and we will then instantiate an arrow. So I've downloaded an arrow object. I think it's over here somewhere. Yes, and so that's just put in that start position, and it's created on the fly, so instantiated, and then this arrow is fired, so it moves away. This is the code that's connected with the arrow, so you can see that there's a prefab over here that has the arrow script. And if you take a look at the script, we have a move delay. So as soon as the arrow is instantiated, it sits just there for almost 1 second, because this archer is straining his bow, and the arrow is already there, but it's not fired yet. But after 0.9 seconds it's fired, and then we see that we play that arrow sound, and we are moving the arrow into the direction of the enemy. So we've set that position, and it's already properly rotated towards the enemy. So we can just move the transform forward, the arrow, and we also just change the angle a little bit. It's just very simple code over here with a linear movement. It could be more natural, but from that distance you won't notice that it's not the natural movement of an arrow with the usual gravity and the curve that it usually has. So the arrow just moves a little bit up and down, and then it hits the target, and then it's removed from the scene again. The picture of the unit that you see on the screen over here is just a PNG file of a screenshot. You can just run the game and then go to one of the units, zoom in, and you can just disable all the rest of the stuff. So just keep one over here and just remove everything else, even the terrain and stuff. Just remove the skybox temporarily, and also all these things, so that you end up with just the just that soldier. And then you can just take a screenshot with print screen and save it with Paint or something like that. Finally, for the sound, I've added these game objects to the scene, and they all contain an audio source. So all the sources are already in the scene, and we can use them. I've used this script to play the sounds. We play a random attack sound, just a random range in the range of the attack sounds. So we just fill this list with all the sounds. You can see that over here in the sound script that is attached over here. We created a list of all the possible sword sounds, the dying swords sounds, and the arrow sounds. And then it uses a random one, so it is not always the same sound. It makes it a bit more interesting. And to play this sound, we just have a singleton over here. So we have one instance of this sound object that we can call from all different scripts, like this. So you can use this type of code in any script over here without importing anything. That's it for today. I hope you are as happy with the result as I am. The game looks already good, and you can see that it works with at least 500 soldiers to have great battles. Another time we will add some features like building and a clickable map. But for now, thanks again for watching, and see you next time.